So functions of marketing implies to various activities undertaken by the marketing department. So marketing department performs numerous functions, which includes buying, selling, pricing, assembling. It also includes functions like collecting market information, customer service, market research, distribution of goods, transportation, warehousing, retailing, standardization and grading. So these are various different activities performed by the marketing department. And these activities are being termed as functions of marketing. So even though the list is quite big, and the best way to study these activities is to group them. So we can group all these activities into three categories. The first category being the exchange functions. So what are the exchange functions and what are the activities involved in exchange functions? So let's go through it. So exchange, it's a very simple term and it implies to all the processes involved in the transfer of title of goods from seller to the buyer. So all these steps which involves in transferring the ownership of products from seller to buyer forms your exchange function. And a user's satisfaction or usefulness from a product is derived by the exchange function. So what it means is a customer obtains what he wants for satisfying his needs through exchange function. That means he pays for the product which he desires, obtains the product by paying for it, and then he satisfies his needs. So this is in simple language termed as exchange function. So the moment you make a payment, you become the owner of the product. So that is what the exchange function emphasizes on. It emphasizes on facilitating the process of change in the ownership of the goods. So what are the different exchange functions? Of course, the first function begins with buying. Now, in order to sell, the marketer has to first buy the goods. So buying involves deciding what to buy, what quantity to buy, what kind of quality of products to buy, how much to buy, from whom to buy, most importantly, when to buy it, and at what price. So these are some of the decisions which are undertaken by the distributor, by the wholesaler, by the retailer. So these are the entities who buy from manufacturers. And manufacturers also will ask similar kind of questions. What to buy, what quantity, how much, whom, when, at what price. Because manufacturers also are dependent on suppliers for raw materials. So all the entities and intermediaries involved in the distribution network do ask these questions. For them, buying is an important function. Demand and supply for goods plays an important role in buying function because the prices are influenced by the demand and supply. So all the marketing chain entities, which includes your manufacturers, so they purchase raw material from their suppliers, distributors purchase from manufacturers, wholesalers purchase from distributors, and retailers purchase from wholesalers, and ultimately the customers buy from the retailers. So it all depends on the route or the channel of distribution. So what is important here is the quality, service, and price, because all this have impact on marketing chain participants. So just like customers always examine the price what they are paying and the kind of product what they are getting, the other intermediaries, when they buy from their suppliers, they also examine the same factors. So when the manufacturer is buying from the supplier, so he also wants to examine what is the quality, what are the different services provided by the supplier, and is he offering the raw material at a very competitive price. Same kind of questions are also asked by the other intermediaries. So the products that retailers purchase for resale are solely based on requirement and preferences of their customers. So the last entity in the supply chain, in the distribution network, is a retailer. So retailer purchase decision is highly influenced by keeping in mind the requirements of the customer. So buying, even though might seems to be a very simple function, but it's not that easy. And when we say buying, you should think from the perspective of all the intermediaries. So buying seems to be very simple, right? From the perspective of customer, buying just involves going to a store and purchasing what you want from the point of view of customer. But from the point of view of other intermediaries, it's not that easy because other intermediaries has to take into account so many factors. For example, when retailers buy from wholesalers, retailers examine various considerations. First, whether the retailer, whether the wholesaler is offering him credit benefits, because that is what most of the time retailers look for. Retailers want wholesaler to give them the credit benefits, which means they want to procure goods from wholesaler, but they don't want to pay immediately. They want wholesaler to give them some duration, let's say 30 days time to repay. So retailers wants to sell the product, right? Want to recover the cash and then want to pay to the wholesaler. So for a wholesaler, for a retailer, important consideration involves financing. He wants the wholesaler to give the goods on a credit basis and he wants the credit terms to be very good. So different entities have different expectations in the buying process. The expectation what a customer has from retailer is not the same expectations what retailer has from wholesaler. Wholesaler also wants distributor to give them credit. Wholesaler wants distributors to give them exclusivity in a particular area. Wholesaler wants exclusivity. Exclusivity means for entire region, only you will be the wholesaler. Wholesaler does not want distributor to give wholesalership to as many as people as possible because that will spoil the business of the wholesaler. So every entity in the buying process has different set of expectations. So you have to ensure that you are taking care of these expectations. Now, once the goods are bought by different entities and ultimately the retailer, the next process is selling the goods. And one of the important objective of marketing is to increase the sales revenue. So selling provides the much needed component, which is the revenue. All other activities which we are about to discuss involves spending money. Buying involves spending money. Promotion involves spending money. Advertising involves spending money. Distribution, spending money. Warehousing, you need to spend a lot of money. But this is the only activity of the marketing which involves revenue generation. So you have to ensure that you do this activity flawlessly because ultimately if this activity is not done properly, the sales revenue will get hit. So therefore, the primary goal of marketing is to increase sales, and selling is the process of influencing, motivating the potential customers to buy your products, to purchase your products. In selling function, the emphasis is to process the sales, transfer of ownership. And of course, the volume of sale is directly connected with the profitability of the company. The more the sales is, the higher the sales revenue is. And of course, you also have other expenses that needs to be taken care from the sales revenue. But ultimately, the profit is directly connected with sales. And in order to increase sales volume, most of the marketers do use various promotional activities, which includes personal selling, in which the role of salesman plays an important part here. So if you have well-trained sales staff, definitely they can do wonder in pushing the product and influencing the customers to listen to them. Advertising, another important weapon in the hands of the marketer that can persuade the customer, influence the customer, create artificial need in the customer. You also have publicity, promotions being done at the point of sale. So these are some of the strategies which the marketer uses to push the sales, right? So both selling and buying must complement each other. It's not like after buying you're unable to sell what you have bought. So both has to be hand in hand, right? So they are the two halves of the exchange equation. So buying equal to selling. So selling and buying functions are at the center of all marketing operations. So these are the two pillars of the exchange function. Now, in order to ensure that this buying and selling is facilitated smoothly, one factor plays an extremely important role, and that factor is pricing. Now, in fact, you would be wondering as to why some organizations succeed and why some organizations fail. And one of the reason for success and failure of any organization is the pricing strategy or the pricing policy. Pricing policy can make or break the fortunes of the organization. So in simple words, what is price? Price is the amount of money what a marketer charges for a product, as well as what customer is willing to pay for the product. So pricing is an extremely important instrument because pricing can give the kind of competitive advantage what the marketer wants in order to expand the market share. If the pricing is too high, what will happen? The demand will decline and marketer will be out of the competition. So in order to get the pricing right, marketer needs to closely evaluate what the prices are being charged by the competitor and in what way the marketer can design the pricing in such a way that it gives him an upper hand over his competitors. And in fact, in the practical world of marketing, most of the competitions are fought on the basis of price. So most of the companies, most of the brands indulge in competition on the basis of price. It's all about offering the product to the customer at the lowest price as possible because Indian customers are price sensitive. Indian customer wants cheap and best. That's a very unrealistic expectation, but that's what Indian customers want. They want the products to be offered at a very low price. And for the kind of low price what they are giving or what they are paying, they want maximum benefits. That seems to be quite absurd. But in case if you're able to deliver to this need of Indian consumers that is giving more for less, then you will become the undisputed leader in your respective segment. And some of the big companies, you think of any company's success, it's always being attributed to their pricing strategy. When you think of Jio, how did Jio become a major player in the telecom industry in a short span of time? Because for Airtel, it took almost 11 to 12 years to become India's number one telecom company. On the other hand, Jio was able to achieve the same success in just 3 years. So what has attributed to the quick growth of Jio's uh, success, and how did Jio was able to capture the market very quickly in a short span of time? One of the important reasons for this is the pricing. So Jio did use a penetration pricing policy where eventually the products are offered at a very low price or almost at a free price. So initially Jio gave all the SIM cards, all the services free of cost. Then Jio gave the same services for a very low price. And Jio did apply the principle what I did mention, that Indians expect low price but maximum benefits, and that's what Jio did. Jio did charge a very low price and gave maximum benefit. And this is something which the other competitors were not able to deliver, and that's one of the reasons why Jio became a successful organization overnight, capturing most of the market share and driving out most of the players from this industry itself. In fact, Jio is responsible for disrupting the telecom industry and killing the competition itself. So many players have disappeared because of the pricing policy of Jio. So whether it is your Aircel, whether it is your Tata Docomo, whether it is Uninor, whether it is BSNL, all these companies have disappeared. And one of the reasons is the pricing policy of Jio, which other companies were not able to match it. So that's the reason it's very important to get the pricing right, because pricing is a very tricky concept in exchange process. The success of product or service, in fact, is largely determined by its pricing. So, which is not always easy to achieve. If the price is too high, demand will decline and marketer will be out of competition. If the price is too low, that is also a problem, because if you keep the prices low, sales revenue may not be sufficient to recover the expenditure. As a result of this, getting the pricing right is extremely important. So keeping the prices too low also for a very long time is not good for the financial health of the organization. But most of the firms, when you examine their success, it primarily comes from pricing and then evolves over a period of time. Because I did mention that offering products at a very low price for a too long time is also not good for the financial health. So initially, pricing strategy does helps, but over a period of time, you can't continue with the same low pricing strategy. You have to shift and focus on something else to stay competitive